Oh, they don't come much better than that is possibly the most fatuous way I could have started this programme. I don't know why I thought that. I was just hoping I'd say something really profound at the beginning of this new show. Jude, the producer's already devastated. She thought I was going to come out with some words of wisdom. Instead, I've come out with, oh, they don't come much better than that. Although I suppose it is a sentiment that I share because I do adore that song. It was the only song I could start this new show with. Sugar, If I Can't Change Your Mind from the album Copper Blue. And I think if you're in your early 30s like me, I hope that album has a place in your heart. It certainly does for me. So welcome along to this, the new Steve Merchant show. I've already said Steve because I feel the show should be relaxed. It shouldn't be as formal as Stephen. People often refer to me as Stephen Merchant, my mum, and people in the press, but I decided that I wanted this show to have that kind of... This is a kind of show that should be able to just kick off its shoes, you know, loosen its tie, you know, maybe just unbutton its trousers, you know, whatever it needs to do, just to relax. It's Sunday afternoon, it shouldn't be too stressful, it shouldn't be too much of a headache. We've got a couple of people in the studio. I'll explain why they're here a bit later, although one of them, Harry, I know you're a massive Sugar fan.
Gigantic.
And I would hope that you'd be able to perhaps give us a brief potted history of that wonderful band.
Well, the band not necessarily, but Bob Mould, of course, the singer, the main man, started off in a Minneapolis power trio, Husker Du, back in the early 80s, went a bit crazy, released a couple of very miserable solo albums, then came back with Sugar, had his moment of triumph, then did another couple of solo albums, disappeared off the face of the earth, and was found writing scripts for wrestling matches.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't the WWF. I know a lot of Six Music listeners are big wrestling fans. They might.
I'd be surprised if we dragged them away from it, to be honest.
Well, I don't want to shatter any illusions for them, but yeah, he was writing scripts for the wrestling. Since came back, made an awful album, made a great one, and he was touring last year, and he's still making music.
So you've both praised and slammed Mould within the first 5 minutes of this show. And
no one's perfect, Steve. No one's perfect.
I should point out that level of nerdy knowledge is the sort of thing I'm hoping to stamp out on this show. I want it to be ill-informed and ill-thought through, but nevertheless full of great music, like this. Guillemots, Trains to Brazil. If you are thinking of buying the Guillemots album from whence that comes and you've not yet bought it, please don't make the mistake of walking into a record shop and saying, have you got the album by the Guillemots? It's merely Guillemots, as in editors, Pixies. Oh yeah, a lot of people think that it's the Pixies. Please don't make that mistake.
Thanks for stamping out the nerdishness, Steve.
Straight away, yeah. I'm trying to clamp down on that. Well, the point that I'm trying to think, is there an ethos to this radio show? And in a sense, it is to try and avoid preaching to the people that already know loads about music. They're already massive fans. They've already got all the very trendiest, pre-released white label 12 inches. It's not available for another 18 months, but I've already got it. All that stuff I can't be doing with it. I can't be doing with DJs that talk like that. And so, plus no one ever sends me pre-released 12 inches and stuff. So, there's no fear of that. So really, this is a show, in my dream, it will be sort of a meeting place for like-minded souls. I will present music to you, the listener, to you, my friends. You will, in return, present music to me. Now, hold fire. Don't start emailing and texting straight away. I don't like Guillemots, don't like Sugar. This is what you should be playing. We'll come to you in good time, listener. For now, I just thought we could play some tunes that give you the sense of what I'm into, the sort of vibe that I'm on, the kind of tip. There's going to be some pretty cool hippity hop later. I'm pretty down with it. There'll be some of this kind of trendier electronic music with all the digitals going on. Plus there'll just be some classic, guitar music. Plus, and this is the real thrill for me, I've got two people in the studio who are not broadcasting experienced in any way, really. I mean, you've done a little bit of odds and ends here in the past, but basically you are, for want of a better word, nobodies. And that is a real thrill. And I mean that positively. I don't mean that as an insult.
It's a real thrill for me.
Yeah, because what's great about you is you're just people off the street. You're an average guy. Dan, for instance, a friend of mine, I've known him for many years since university. He's here. He is below average. He is so average, it's unbelievable. He's like mediocre. It's just unbelievable. He's so in a way, instantly, the listeners can relate to that. The listeners out there, they think, I'm a bit intimidated by Steve. He's so showbiz, he's so glamorous, he's so sexy. Don't worry, I've got a couple of people in here, losers that you can relate to straight away. Don't worry, they're here. And so the concept is they've brought in some tracks that they think I should love, that I should include perhaps on my new show's playlist. They'll be pitching those songs to me later in the show. Plus, we'll have a few other people just poking their heads in and doing the same. And then in future weeks, we're hopefully going to get you, the listeners, to do the same. Maybe we could even get you on the line. You can be a little bedroom DJ for 5 minutes. So it's going to be interactive, but let's give it time. Let's ease into it. Let's not rush anything. Come on. Let me just briefly introduce these boys. Then Harry, we've already heard from. He's the guy with the sugar knowledge. Say hello, Harry.
Hello.
And just briefly give us an example of who you are, age, what you do for a job.
Well, I'm 31, soon to be 32, work in a bank. like, you know, I'm average Joe.
I mean, you are so average, aren't you? You're the sort of person they'd go to for any kind of study about who you're going to vote for in an election. That
exactly. But I'm just a little bit stupid.
Okay, perfect. And Dan, you're even more average than that. What do you? Well, actually, I suppose you've got the veneer of glamour because you do work for the BBC. As a sports journalist.
Yeah, that's possibly true. Thanks for having me on, by the way.
Not at all.
And thanks for that great introduction.
Yeah, that's
very
what
enjoyable.
I'm here for. So you're a sports journalist, but you're a music fan.
I'm a music fan, yes. And you know, as you say, there's just nothing about me. There's nothing that you could hang a peg on.
No.
So, yeah, hopefully I should be able to relate to everybody.
Well, I almost forgot you were here.
Yeah.
It was
I noticed.
was absurd.
Yeah, no, I did notice.
I was talking to Harry, I didn't realise you were here. But no, thanks for coming along, and I appreciate it. And we'll hear from some of your choices a bit later. But in the meantime, this is someone that I think I might be deeply in love with, and this is her band. And I saw her live last year. She's breathtaking. If you get the chance, you must see her. But this is her band, Rilo Kiley. It's Jenny Lewis, and this is the track, I Never. Breathtaking album called More Adventurous that I think came out in 2005. That's Rilo Kiley and I Never. As I say, Jenny Lewis, who's the front woman and has her own solo outfit now. It's her and the Watson twins. If you get to see them live, if you haven't got the album Rabbit for a Coat, you have to seek it out. She's just extraordinary, and she does an amazing live show. Harry, you saw it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. She starts off stage, the stage is empty, just the equipment. Then you hear them harmonising off stage. They slowly walk on. It's just beautiful. It's got almost a kind of choir-like feel, almost a gospel-type feel. They come on, they slowly build up their sound. They perform the show, then they slowly strip it back down again and leave the stage. It's just, and to me, she feels like someone who's got the potential to be one of those giant crossover artists. And
it felt like a proper show. You know, she didn't just come on and do it.
Exactly. What I can't bear are those guys that they just come on and they just say, you know, we're Mud Hut, and they just start playing, and they don't speak again for another 10 minutes, you know, and they've got an attitude with the audience. I can't bear that. If you're a band, if you're out there, if you're thinking of, you know, how to create stagecraft, how to create presence, think about Bono, right? He doesn't just turn up, he doesn't just slope on, wearing a pair of tatty jeans, he's always got an interesting hat, a pair of sunglasses, alright? Learn from him, he's one of the biggest stars in the world. Little lesson for you there.
Steve, chances are there is actually a band called Mud Hut somewhere who might be a bit upset, because they might actually be quite good live.
Exactly.
So we should just put out a little disclaimer there. If you are Mud Hut, we apologise if you are good.
Hey, if you are Mud Hut, why not send in a CD? We'd love to hear some of your work. I hear it's very good. So listen, yes, I was thinking to myself as I was walking in, I don't really have any concept of what the Six Music listener looks like. I know that there's some who are perhaps a little bit, for want of a better word, nerdy. But then who isn't? You know, we've already displayed that ourselves. But I'm wondering, is there the more casual, is there the more average guy, the average Joe, like these guys? So I would love if you can get in touch. Just explain who you are, what age you are, what are you doing on a Sunday afternoon, what are you up to, what are your dreams, what are your hopes? You can send us a little email, send us a little text. Dan, what's the text number?
The text number, Steve, is 64046.
Harry, have you got the email address?
Yeah, absolutely. It's stephen.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk.
Is that Stephen with a PH or a V?
It's a PH.
Oh, so just say it again.
It's Stephen with a PH, .sixmusic@bbc.co.uk.
So, for instance, maybe you are a young couple, you've just moved in together, but there's already a bit of friction. You're already wondering, have we made a terrible mistake? Okay, you're there. You've maybe moved in together for about 6 months. You're listening to Six Music now. You just had an argument about something really petty, and yet we all know it was about so much more. It was about the disgruntlement and the anxiety you feel about this failing relationship. You're sat there now. You're reading the papers. There's a sort of silence in the room being filled by my voice. If that's you now, either of you, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe you're a young lad. You're sort of 16, 17. Maybe you've got to do work experience tomorrow. You're a little bit nervous. You know, you set it up last minute, you've just borrowed your dad's suit, it doesn't fit very well, you're worried, you know, you're a bit anxious, get in touch. 64046 is the text. Stephen with a PH, .sixmusic@bbc.co.uk. After this next track, a cover version, I'm going to introduce that feature, it's going to be about cover versions, I'll explain that on the other side of this. From an album of cover versions they did in, I think, 1971. That's called, the album I think was called Giving It Back, and that was the Isley Brothers doing Stephen Stills' Love the One You're With. And do you remember, Harry, we listened to that when we were driving through America once?
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you remember I was just looking at it, there's a version of Lay Lady Lay by Bob Dylan that's 10 minutes long, and I remember about halfway through you having that slight look of wanting to shoot yourself, or just jump from the car into the passing traffic.
It was a mix between disgust and wanting to kill myself. Yeah.
A look I often see on your face, and what I actually see now.
Yeah, and equally for people who see me walking down Oxford Street, I wear it a lot.
Yeah. No, I was thinking, because every week I want to play a cover version, I'm wondering to myself if I need some kind of name for that slot, you know, because most radio shows, they flag up things like that. It would become a big feature in most radio shows. And I have played cover versions in the past. I think maybe once I came up with Cover Me Bad.
Yeah.
Based on Colour Me Bad. I don't know why it would be Cover Me Bad. Cover Me Up? Cover Under the Covers. So, any thoughts, lads, on what that cover version section could be called?
Certainly something else, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly you want something different, but it still has to be an hilarious pun.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well, we'll come back to it in future weeks, you know, there's no stress. It's a very chilled out, relaxed show.
Do they cover?
Yeah, that's so arbitrary. But book cover.
Book cover.
Mr. Coverman, they call me Mr. Cover.
Brilliant. Yeah, Mr. Coverman, I think is good. That's great. Well done, you cracked it. Okay, now then, singer-songwriters. I'm a massive singer-songwriter fan. I absolutely adore them. And I know that word is coming to sort of disrepute of late because of the likes of James Blunt et al. But I think there are still some great singer-songwriters out there. Don't be put off by it. And this is a guy that a lot of people haven't heard of, and it always disappoints me. His name is Josh Rags. This is from an album he did a couple of years back called Nashville. He moved to Spain, but before that, he put out this Nashville album, and this is a track called Streetlights. Today. Josh Rags, track called Streetlights from his album Nashville. Have we had any texts and emails coming in, Harry?
Yeah, we've got a text from Ollie in Durham. He's a 22-year-old student and he's doing his laundry. God bless him.
Yeah, no, good luck to him. And I wonder what he's studying. I would imagine it's probably some kind of wishy-washy media studies course.
Most probably.
Yeah, Dan?
The emails are flooding in,
Are
Steve. They? Yes, they'll probably break the internet. They're coming out.
Wow. That's a real concern.
Yeah. Aaron is just wondering if you're going to be playing any hip-hop later.
Well, he's absolutely right, and I will be playing hip-hop every week. I'll be playing a hippity-hop track later. I'll probably need to come up with a name for that feature as well, so we'll try and do that after the news. We got the Pixies, and we'll be back after that. Steve Merchant, 6 Music. There was egg on my face, wasn't there, before the news? Having made a point of not embarrassing yourself in a shop by referring to Guillemots as the Guillemots, I went and did it with the Pixies, didn't I? I've just done it again. I can't believe it.
Yeah, you've embarrassed yourself.
That's cripplingly embarrassing. I think I'm thinking of it as being a small the, so I know full well that the Pixies are merely called Pixies. But I'm saying the Pixies as a collective, I'm saying the group of people in the Pixies are known as the Pixies.
No, don't try and get out of it like that. You messed up. It's your first show, you messed up.
Every time you do that again in the future, I'm going to call you The Steve for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. So yeah, Pixies' holiday song, it's a cracking tune. And it's interesting, I'm getting a feel from the text we're getting in. I asked you, if you've only just joined us, to basically just get in touch, Stephen with a ph.6music@bbc.co.uk, or text 64046. Let us know who you are, what you're doing, kind of how old you are, because I've got no sense of who the 6 Music listener is. Guys, how did you characterise in your head the 6 Music listener before coming along reading some of these emails?
Well, I'd always thought of them as, I'm just thinking about the attractiveness level. I'm thinking they're not quite there, but you probably, you wouldn't mind after a couple of pints, perhaps. I'm thinking there's something there, isn't there?
You're in a dark indie club.
Yeah.
You're probably smacked out your head. you're thinking, why not? Full of piercings. Yeah. Probably bad skin. I get the idea.
Yeah, but in a certain light. Maybe.
Sure. Harry, what were your thoughts?
Well, that's very much the traditional view. I imagine the average 6 Music listener as a big, gruff Yorkshireman, probably 6'4", 18 stone. He likes eating chewits, and he's not adverse to dancing once he's had a few.
Does he slap his wife about?
Well, he does, but he loves her.
Sure, exactly. It's a way of showing affection in a curious northern way.
Very much so.
And if you are from the north, I'm not in any way trying to characterise you as wife beaters. There are lots of people from my hometown of Bristol who are wife beaters. I could name them for you right now. But so that was our view before coming along. Now we've put out the appeal. What are we finding?
Well, we've got an email here. It's a trio who've sent one email, which I think is a bit skinflint. But anyway, whatever. One of us is writing an essay on James Joyce. One of us is reading a bit of Heidegger and playing on the PS2. And another
reading
person...
Heidegger whilst playing on the PS2. That's extraordinary.
Multitasking.
Yeah. Another person is playing World of Warcraft, and they think they sum up a good representation of the kind of nerds that are your listeners. That's from Cy, Andy and Rosie, and I think, that's textbook nerd, isn't it?
I wonder if they've just confirmed what we already thought then. I think that's rather worrying. Is there anybody that defies our expectations?
Well, from the world of computers to the world of mobile phones, where it's a little less geeky, we've got Katie, who's 25. She's packing up her bedroom to move out of her mum's house, and it doesn't seem like a good idea anymore.
Really?
I'm sensing a whole new section of the show. We talked about love lost and heartbreak. You were talking about that before the news. I was that person, disgruntled with my boyfriend in bed. Now I'm a single person in bed, reading the news of the world on my own. Tragic, hopefully not typical 6 Music listener. That was Anna.
What worries me is, did that happen in the course of the last sort of 6 minutes? I suggested that maybe it was time to confront that disgruntlement in the relationship. She's done it. She's kicked him out. She's still gone back to the news of the world.
She'll thank you in the long run.
She will, yeah.
And finally, a fella here is 41. Oh, I say a fella, I've no idea. 41 next month and living with their parents. And they say, I hope I'm not your typical listener. You know, we're welcome to everyone.
Yeah. 41 still living with his parents?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't think anyone needs to cast judgment on that. He's done it himself. Good luck to him. Good luck to him. I wonder if that's choice or whether it's circumstance. You never know. Sometimes, you know, he could have lost his job, marriage has gone down the pan, he's had to move back home. We just don't know.
There's no way to tell at this point. Maybe if he gets in touch again, could fill out the backstory for us.
That'd be ideal. Now listen, we come to the part of the show where you guys are heavily involved, and I know you're a bit nervous. I've asked you to bring in some tracks, to present them to me. I've not heard them before the show. This is my first listen to them, and really, I've decided I'm going to pit you against one another. Will they make it into the Steve Show playlist? I've decided to call this The Steve Show. Is that okay? I used to do a radio show when I was at university called The Steve Show. It seems time to bring it back. It's got the kind of casual, laid-back Sunday afternoon feel to it that's appropriate to this programme. So anyway, Dan, you're the first person up. What tune are you going to play?
Well, I'm going to try and lift the mood, Steve, because after that, those terrible human stories of tragedy that we've just had on
from our listeners, we should point out,
from our listeners, which sound like they've come straight from the pages of Woman's Weekly. But yes, I've got a song by Coop.
Okay.
You may not be aware of them.
No.
They're a Swedish duo who rope in a lot of other musicians around that, and they released an album at the end of last year called Coop Islands. And this is a lovely song from it. It's very upbeat. I think, hopefully, even if it's not sunny, where our listeners are, it'll make them think of sun, think of summer, and think of going out and having a good time.
Thank you, Dan. Coop. Coop, I See a Different You. It's Dan's first choice in this kind of Battle of the Titans.
I'm quite terrified now. I feel like I've laid a part of myself on the line, and who knows, maybe you'll tear it to shreds.
Well, this is going to be a massive revelation for the listeners, but Dan and I live together. Not in that way. Nothing wrong with that way. If you want to live that way, live that way. Get in touch if you live that way. But he is my flatmate, and it's my property. I rent to him. And I think you'll find I've not put the rent up in about 3 years. He's not mentioned that, but I'm expecting a thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Will that do?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
But how many times then have I passed your tiny little bedroom, and I've heard, and I've fought my way through the stench to hear that sort of noodly jazz twonk.
You see,
because you really do adore the sort of noodly jazz nonsense, don't you? And I have to say, put my hand up straight away and say I enjoyed Coop. Then I thought that was a lovely track, but it is very typical of the sort of music that you listen to.
Listen, you've played some nice tunes. I've enjoyed them. I've tolerated them up to this stage. But it's all a bit dour. It's all a bit oh no. And I thought I'd lift the mood. I think we don't all want to. Trudging through a street on a wet Tuesday. It's not all about that. We want to dream of sipping cocktails in a Parisian bar somewhere with a woman. It would be so nice, wouldn't it? And
it would be lovely to sip cocktails with a woman.
Listening to Coop is as close to that as I'm ever going to get. So that's why I like Coop.
Probably true of some of our listeners.
No, let's not go there.
I know. See, I'm baiting them. I'm almost asking them to hate me, and it's a very, very perverse thing to do on your first show. Harry, what are your thoughts on Coop?
Well, you see, Dan's dream of cocktails and the high life that they provide. I don't like cocktails. I had the idea of being stuck in some horrible bar with a load of suits, drinking an obscenely priced cocktail that's named after, ladies' bits or the act of doing it.
Yeah.
And, I didn't like it. It made me want to go home and listen to Ride.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because I have to make a verdict on whether that track will make it into the playlist, but I'm going to do that once I've heard Harry's choice. Harry, what have you got for us?
Well, we've got a track called Regret by the Sultans, who are a three-piece out of San Diego, formed by John Rice from Rocket from the Crypt. Not as angry as some of the Rocket stuff, or not as angry to your ears. I know you dislike the Rockets. This is a shiny pop gem, which has got a bit of a Taylor Loss about it as well.
The Steve Show 6 Music with me, Stephen Merchant. I've got two friends in the studio. They are, and this is not an insult, it's a compliment, nobody's. I've got them in deliberately for that reason. One of them works in a bank. The other one, I forget what he does, but I know it keeps him in work, and he's able to therefore pay his rent. I am his landlord. So they are Dan and Harry. Harry, say hi.
Hi.
Dan, say hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much. And they are pitted against one another here. They've each brought in some music, and they're hoping to persuade me to put those tunes into the Steve Show playlist. But I'm afraid I can only choose one. There are arbitrary rules.
That's just been made up.
Just made up. I just suddenly like the idea of there being competition. So we had Coop and something ditzy and jazzy, and we had that slightly more Six Music familiar track. I mean, not that I've heard it on Six Music, but it's the sort of sound I would expect to hear on the station.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that track? Why does it appeal to you? Is the album good?
The album's fantastic. 6 listeners will want to know that it's the album's called Shipwrecked, and it's on Swami. It's a great record, and it's full of shimmering pop gems like that, really. Gets in 2 minutes long, tells you what's going on, and lets you get on with your life.
Exactly. That's what you look for in music.
Absolutely.
It's also what I look for in people. And so I'm going to shut you up. I'm going to move on to Dan. Dan, what did you make of it?
Well, this may surprise you, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, yeah. I know that we're locked in a Mortal Kombat, possibly to the death, over our music taste here, but I'm a lot more open-minded than Harry, of course, and I enjoyed that for a lot of the same reasons, I'm afraid. It got in there, it jangled, and then it went away, and I don't think anyone really can complain about it.
Does that mean I win?
I'm very, very torn here, because much as I loathe everything Dan stands for musically, I do think it was a brave choice. It was unfamiliar. It's not the sort of thing you'd expect to hear on Six Music. Certainly not the sort of thing you'd expect to hear on a show hosted by me, someone who's generally got a resistance to anything kind of jazzy and twiddly and noodly. So for that reason alone, I'm going to award it to Dan.
Get in.
Yeah, well done, Dan. You are now 1-0 up, if anyone cares. So any more emails, texts? We're trying to find out, if you've just joined us, who the average Six Music listener is, so that we can cater the show to them in future weeks. Harry, what have you got?
Yeah, we've got Doug here. Doug Warner, he's 20 years old. He's at university at Aberystwyth. He's attempting to revise for an international politics exam on Wednesday while playing Tekken 3, and he's trying to steal his mate's girlfriend, and his mate doesn't know. You know,
well, you'd have thought not, because otherwise it's just very straightforward. Excuse me, do you mind giving me the hand of your girlfriend? It would be very polite if only society were like that.
Exactly, but if that is the average Six Music listener, I'm not sure we should be providing such treats. That's obviously quite bad behaviour.
It is bad behaviour, isn't it? It's amazing how these people are able to multitask. He's able to play Tekken and also seduce a woman.
Exactly, but very much like Columbo, it's his one mistake. He's told us, and we've broadcast on the radio, that he's trying to steal his mate's girlfriend. If you are Doug Warner's mate, you know, don't let her out.
Dan, any more emails, texts?
Well, we've got one from Pam.
Pam? She got in touch, great.
And it's Transatlantic Phil from Chicago. Now, Pam, she's in her mid-30s, but don't let that put you off. She says she's very attractive, and she's suffering the after effects of a really bad date. 9:30 in the morning over there, so she's up early to listen to the Steve, which I think is admirable. She went out.
You just reduced the show's name to the Steve.
The Steve.
It's already pretty short as it is.
Well, why not? Later on, why not?
Okay, so she's listening to the Steve.
Hey, she had a bad date last night, and just very quickly, any idea why it was so bad?
I've no idea.
Well, she went out with a guy. He was boring. All right, we've all been there. But he also spat.
We have not all been there. I've never been on a date with a guy who's really boring.
What about the other? There was that other
Oh,
tube.
come on, you've made a hilarious blunder there where you've implied I'm gay. Nothing wrong with that, that's fine, but it's just important to clarify that I'm not, just for any future reasons.
Indeed. He spat every time he spoke.
Oh, no.
And he...
Do you know what? I'm thinking I'm developing that.
Yeah?
I've noticed it increasingly. You know, you can always tell because the person flinches and tries not to notice and then tries to find a discreet way of just wiping their cheek as the conversation carries on.
Well, Pam had a whole evening of that last night, and she's not in a good mood, but she says that you're helping. You're helping lift her vibe.
Good luck, Pam.
Which is nice.
Keep us abreast of any future dating, because I'm fascinated to find out how people's dates go and how their lives are panning out. Now then, someone emailed in earlier or texted and said that they'd love me to play some hip-hop. That's because they know there's part of me that loves a bit of hippity-hop. I love to keep it real, I love to keep it street. As anyone knows who's a fan of me, I could bust Will Smith's, for a couple of the tracks by the Fresh Prince right now for you. Jude, the producer, if you don't believe me, I could do it. If you could lay on a hip-hop beat, I'll cut it for you right now. I'm not going to. I'm maybe going to wait for some kind of Christmas special. Going to build up to that, tease people. But each week I'm going to dig out some kind of hip-hop track that I think maybe you've not heard, or maybe you have and you haven't heard it for a while, or whatever. Maybe I'm just going to play it. But anyway, this is one from a band that I think only really had one album that didn't sell particularly well. They were on the Soul Sides label, along with DJ Shadow and people like that. And the band is called Latyrix. Play it, Jude. The group are called Latyrix, made up by Latif, the Truth Speaker, and Lyrics Born. That's actually from, pardon me, from 1997, and a track called Lady Don't Techno. And as I say, they didn't really ever kind of take off. They got a cracking album, which has got kind of all kinds of extraordinary moments on it, including a point where they're both rapping at the same time, different lyrics, and their voices are coming out of either speaker. So it works, bizarrely. It really works. Maybe we can play that in future weeks. But I thought that was a nice chilled out kind of hip hop track for this first show. Steve Show, by the way, at Six Music with me, Stephen Merchant. I've got two guys here. I'm going to refer to them as the Nobodies, and I keep pointing out that's a compliment. It's about the fact that they're not experienced broadcasters, they're not music journalists, they're not in bands, they're people who've just got a taste or a love of music. They've come in to play some tracks for us. Harry, say hi.
Hi.
Dan.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Any more emails, texts? We're trying to find out what the average Six Music listener is like.
Well, we've got a text from Mary, who reckons she's not the typical Six Music listener. She's 17, doesn't usually listen, but she's got a little bit of a soft spot for you. And she reckons, she's got a theory here, that nerds don't seek out Six Music. Six Music creates nerds. Because ever since you put out your appeal for people to send in tracks, she's been obsessed. Her whole life's gone to pot. Because she's done nothing except send you requests.
She just keeps on sending in tracks.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we're going to come to probably in future weeks, where you, the listener, are going to get involved. And pardon me, I've just got a little frog in the throat there. It's very unprofessional. Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah, in future weeks we're going to get you to contribute. You can suggest tracks. Maybe we play something you think, oh well, if he likes that, he'll like that, and so on and so on and so on. But we'll come to that in future weeks. At the moment, we're just trying to plant seeds in your mind and explain to you the sort of flavours that we enjoy. I just want to dedicate that Latyrix track to two people who told me that they're on a boat in Turkey, Jamie and Liz. Why they are listening to us on a boat in Turkey, I'm sure there's more interesting things to be doing. Perhaps making sweet, sweet love. I don't know what time it is in Turkey. Maybe it's a little bit early for you. It could be just after lunch. Don't never make sweet, sweet love directly on a full stomach, because you can get cramp like if you go swimming. I think, I don't know. I'm not. I have no idea. No actual experience of that. So anyway, yes. And you want something? You want to say something, Jude? Oh yes, I remember. You want me to play a trail. Let's play the trail, then we'll talk more afterwards. Oh, or not.
Six Music.
He's past the Six Music end.
Here's a quick trivia question for you. Who's doing backing vocals on this track?
It's not me.
Brilliant. You've told me this and I've forgotten.
Any ideas?
Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, it was a great guess, but it was actually the Jackson 5. Yeah, fascinating. From 1974's Fulfillingness First finale. That's Stevie Wonder, and a song called You Haven't Done Nothing. I've often spoken in the past, I forget who, with a couple of friends, and we've talked about artists who appeal to the head, heart, and the hips. Tricky. Now, I would say that Stevie Wonder is possibly one of the only names I can pull off the top of my head. Possibly Mr. Prince, as I like to call him, the artist Prince. But other than that, it's difficult. I mean, when I say appeal to the hips, they have to be sort of songs that you would think about dancing to. I mean, obviously you can dance to a lot of indie nonsense, but that would be, it doesn't really count. So, guys, any thoughts straight off the top of your head?
Curtis Mayfield?
Yeah, maybe.
What about Talking Heads?
Oh no.
Hey? No, what about it? They've got the groovy little funk guitar thing going on.
Because I can't dance to Talking Heads, because I just imagine that big fella with all the funny movements. And
with the big suit?
Yeah.
No, fair point. I withdraw my suggestion.
I think this discussion's going to run and run, though. Really, I do. I think of all the things we've come up with, this is probably the most fascinating. It's the most exciting. It's going to be sweeping the land. People in pubs this evening, they're having a quiet pint. This is the only subject on their lips. Anyway, we need to get back to your battle, guys. You're trying to present tracks to me that I feel should make it onto the Steve Show playlist in future weeks. So far, Dan's ahead with 1 point. I don't know why I feel the need to make it into a competition, but it is. So we're starting with you, Harry, this time. What have you got for us?
I've got a track called Canada by the Field Mice, Six Music aficionados of fey, jangly, indie rot from the 80s will love this. My favourite band on Sarah were the Sea Urchins, but I've not picked them. I've picked the Field Mice. This is a great track called Canada.
Oh, it's all gone hideously wrong. See, if I was pressing the buttons, you'd have had a lot more mistakes like that.
It's alright, because we've got this intro, so we can still keep talking.
Okay, so other artists who appeal to the head, heart, and... Harry, what was that very twee track you just played for us?
That was Canada by the Field Mice. Doomed Love, Steve. That's what it's all about. Doomed Love.
I'm a sucker for Doomed Love, Harry. I really am, but I wondered if that was just a little bit too jingly jangly twee for me. I don't know. It's difficult.
A little bit, you know, in my worst moments, it reminds me a little bit of Young at Heart by the Bluebells.
It does. I know what you mean. Something was bugging me. I was thinking there's something about this song I hate, and I couldn't remember what it was, but that's it. Dan, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I like the last one, but I think he's lost everyone there, Harry. I think he's made a terrible mistake. But I still think he's going to win this particular round of the Steve Show Music Challenge between friends, because I can't help thinking that now you've introduced the point scoring system, inevitably he's going to win, because then it all comes down to the final track, and I know you love a bit of drama.
You're right, and it suddenly occurred to me that that's going to be a problem every week.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll just try to crank up some vitriol for Dan's record. Just some fake vitriol.
Do you know what I'm going to have to do?
Go on.
I'm going to have to put it out to the listeners next week.
Oh my goodness.
That's going to make a lot more sense, isn't it?
Imagine that.
We're very much finding our feet on this show. I don't want you to think that it's all as polished and as neat as so many of the links have been. There are still some rough... No, come on. There are still some rough edges. There are still some rough edges, you know, which we'll be hopefully polishing off in future weeks. What do you do with a rough edge? Do you sand it down? You sand it down. We'll be sanding down the rough edges in future weeks. For instance, this link, which has been chiefly about sanding down rough edges, will, in future weeks, not be as tiresome. I will be... anyway. Dan, words are my tool. Dan, you've got a choice now, let's hear it.
Yeah, a much more familiar band. I think Tindersticks will be familiar to a...
It's not the Tindersticks.
No, it's not the Tindersticks.
Don't make that mistake.
No, never make that mistake. This will be a lot more familiar to a lot of Six Music fans. But this is a song from their Simple Pleasures album. It was released as a single as well. And I just think it's a great single, and I don't understand why it's not considered to be a great pop single.
But so often the way. Forgotten gems, let's hear it, we'll make up our own minds. Tindersticks, Can We Start Again on the Steve Show 6 Music, 4:15 Sunday afternoon. Hope you're just chilling out, relaxing, unless you're not, unless you're doing something more entertaining, more high energy. Get in touch, let us know what it is, 64046, Stephen with a ph.6music at bbc.co.uk. And we're in some kind of battle of the musical choices. We need to come up with a snappier name for this one, guys. And we already came up earlier, if you've only just joined us. What was the name we came up for the cover section?
Mr. Coverman. They call me Mr. Cover. Or something like that.
I think maybe Mr. Cover.
Mr. Cover. Yeah,
brilliant. So, it's high five, guys.
Yeah, high five.
Well done. I see what we should have. We should have a kind of Steve Wright style round of applause periodically after songs or fun ideas. I love a little round of applause on Steve Wright's show. It's great. Let's just have a quick one now. It's good, isn't it? It's just it livens things up. You can see why he does it. Yeah. It's perfect. Okay, so that was Tindersticks. What's your thinking?
Can we start again? No thanks. Clear off. Take your string section with you. Oh, that plodded. It plodded. I love the Sticks, but that wouldn't have been my choice.
Very closed-minded there, Harry. I'm slightly disappointed in you once again today.
I'm very sorry.
I think that's a beautiful song. I love that record, and I can't understand it. I understand that maybe his voice is kind of lugubrious and, you know, perhaps negates it a bit as a pop track, but I find that quite jaunty.
Nice use of the word lugubrious and negates. Let's have a round of applause. Steve Wright style. Yeah.
Get in.
I'm afraid to say that I side in with Harry here, and it's not merely for the sake of competition. I actually feel that was a slightly odder choice of Tindersticks track. I think there are others which perhaps, particularly if we're introducing the Tindersticks to a whole bunch of young listeners, we've discovered actually, haven't we, that there's quite a lot of students, younger people, maybe doing exams, writing essays and stuff. A lot of these artists may be unfamiliar. You've got to remember, Six Music, all about the new music. It's all about new music, constantly. New music. To me, do you know what new music is? It's music you've not heard before. Wise words. If you take one thing away with you today from this show, it's that wise snippet of wisdom. New music. When someone says to you, do you like new music? You go, do you know what? What is new music? They'll say, well, new music's just something that's just been released. And you'll say in response, oh, is it? I think you'll find, as Steve Merchant often says, that new music is music, and by that point they'll have punched you or left, and therefore making you the winner. They resorted to violence. So, yeah, new music to me is songs you haven't heard before, and so it's exciting to think that Tindersticks may be a band unfamiliar to some of our listeners. And as I say, I think for that reason you're going to have to lose, Dan, because that was not the obvious choice to play in order to charm people with the Tindersticks. Now,
in your new competition, is there any way I can lodge an appeal? Is there an appeal system I can go through?
Something we'll develop in future weeks. A lot of the rules haven't been finalised yet, but we'll be posting up the rules.
I think you've done it for the sake of drama, but nonetheless, I'm excited about the final track showdown.
Yeah.
That has excited me.
That'll come after the news a bit later in the show. Still lots of music to come, plus we have a competition, and I think you're going to find it tricky. It's a very, very difficult question from a very, very wise and, what would you say, a muso. He's a classic muso. I've been trying to avoid musos on this programme, but this quiz question set by a muso who really knows his onions. So look forward to that a bit later. And I don't know, have we got prizes? We'll try and dig something up. In the meantime, I've not played a lot of what you might traditionally term new music, but I'm a big fan of this recent band, Midlake. Let's have a track from them. From the album The Trials of Van Occupanther. I'm so pleased I remembered that. That's Midlake and Head Home. I think it's a cracking album, Harry. Have you heard it?
Yeah, it's great.
It's actually dynamite. And it's got that lovely sort of West Coast vibe. And,
Absolutely.
There was a magnificent documentary on that was on BBC 4 the other evening. Dan, I know you watched it. I enjoyed it enormously. And it was called, I think, From the Birds to the Eagles, and it was sort of following the history of that whole West Coast singer-songwriter phase that included Joni Mitchell and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. This is just going to be one of the most incredible links. You can see where I'm going already. Neil Young, one of my favourite artists, a man who has never shied away from doing something different just when you thought he would do something the same. A bit like me, for instance. A lot of people said that maybe you should stick with TV. I said, no, I'm going to do the radio. I think you'll be the judge of whether this has worked out for me. But yes, there's so many Neil Young tracks to choose from, and they're all so incredible in so many different ways. But this is one that I think probably you wouldn't have heard, from an album called Zuma. This is Pardon My Heart. Neil Young from the album Zuma, and that's Pardon My Heart, and that's a beautiful track. If you've never been a fan of Neil Young, I don't see how that fails to win you over. Now, a lot of the music that I get, a lot of the music that's played on the show is stuff that's been recommended to me by friends, such as Dan and Harry, who are here. Otherwise, I'll probably get it from listening to the radio, or from the free giveaway CDs that you get on magazines. I don't like to just experiment with music, you know, I like someone else to pay for it first. And one of my friends is a guy called Dave Greenwood, who used to send some excellent compilations to me with such an amazing assortment of different tracks. Dave, you knew, Dan, I should say, you know Dave, don't you? Because
I do remember him, yeah, from years back.
We went to university with him, and how would you characterise the man?
He was always a nice fellow, Dave, but he was, it was like he had a dark secret that he wasn't letting on. There was something about him. There was a touch of the night, I think, is the phrase, isn't it?
Well, I'm glad you've been so positive, because he's on the line right now.
Oh, no.
Secret's out, Dan.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dave. I'll shoot off now, yeah? I'll see you later, and I'll leave you with Steve.
Dave, how are you, mate?
Great, thank you, Steve. Love the show.
Thank you very much indeed. You've not actually been able to listen, have you?
No, I was just guessing.
No, just in theory, you love the concept of me having a radio show.
Well, yeah, you know, it's a start.
Exactly. Thanks very much. I hope to move on from here. Now, the reason I'm in touch with you, Dave, is because firstly, I want you to recommend a track that I'll play, and I might come to you in future weeks for a similar recommendation, because you are, as I say, a person of excellent taste, and I admire you greatly.
Well, very well said, thanks.
Thank you very much. But I think, I'll be honest with you, I phoned Dave up just before the show. I haven't spoken to him for quite a while. When's the last time we spoke, Dave?
About 5 years.
About 5 years ago. And so I phoned him up.
We're quite close friends, though.
we're good buddies. And I phoned him up, 5 years, later, and said, listen, I'm doing a radio show later, would you come on? Would you maybe just introduce a track, because you've got excellent taste, and it would be nice. And I like to think that this is very much what the show's about. It's a meeting place for friends with a music taste, and I include the listeners in that circle of friends. Although if you see me in the street, don't come up and talk to me. It's not that kind of friendship. But of course, come up and say hello. But then don't bother me. Don't expect. Anyway, so anyway, I thought, I'll give Dave a call, and I gave Dave a call, and he dropped this bombshell. Dave, what is the bombshell?
Well, the bombshell is, Steve, that like Boys to Men, I'm at the end of the road. I've run out of West. I'm at Land's End in Cornwall. Can you believe it?
Now, that's fair enough. Maybe you've just gone there on holiday, but surely there's more to it than that.
There is more to it, because as soon as possible I'm going to be leaving and walking all the way up to John O'Groats.
He's going to be walking from Land's End. That's a Steve round of applause right there.
Well, I haven't done it yet, but thanks.
Well, no, but even to kind of consider such a task is extraordinary.
It's insane, yes.
Are you doing this for charity?
Absolutely not. I'm doing it for myself. Although if people want to
You're not doing it for charity?
No. I've deliberately decided to shun all charities.
Right, that's one of the most perverse things anyone's ever done, Dave. The idea that you couldn't even be bothered to get a little bit of sponsorship for a charity is just so bizarre.
Well, yes. That's true, but, I like to stub my nose at all things whenever possible.
Do you know what I think?
Including you.
Thank you very much. I imagine that there's going to be people from charities now coming, as you're walking, just heckling you from the side of the street with placards you could have given to cats' homes, all sorts.
I'm open to the highest bid, so if they want to get in touch with me, then they can do through you, no doubt.
How long? I don't know how that's going to work. How long will it take you to walk all this way?
Well, it depends on how the limp heals, but I imagine, 50, 60 days.
What?
2 months.
50 or 60 days?
Yep. It's a long way, Steve.
I'm aware of that, but, surely Beefy Botham did it faster than that, didn't he?
He was on an elephant, wasn't he? Something.
He was what?
On an elephant, or he had...
On an elephant?
Yeah.
Right, well anyway, I think it's time that it's good that you're spending a bit of time alone with yourself for 3 months to just, think about what you've done. But anyway, that means then that you'll still be walking, on next week's show and the show after.
I will,
That's fantastic, so we can catch up with you, find out how you're getting on.
Well, if you can find me, Steve, then I'm sure we can log back in.
Have you thought this through? I mean, have you made a plan? Are you staying in a B&B or are you just sleeping rough?
My plan extends up to tomorrow, and then I'll kind of wing it from there.
Right.
But, it's up, isn't it? It's all up, so I'll just keep going that way.
Sure. I love the fact you've not thought this through. You're a maniac. Good. Well, this is extraordinary. Well, anyway, thank you so much for spending the time to talk to us. And I'm assuming you're going to get fairly lonely, so we'll catch up with you next week. What track are you going to recommend for me this week?
Well, it's a track that you picked, Steve.
Well, I did, but only from the compilation you gave. You've ruined a little bit of the magic there of radio, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I've had a long think about it, and the track that I've picked is the Beach Boys, It's About Time, which is from their 1970 album Sunflower, which apparently nobody bought, but in my opinion, it's better than Pet Sounds.
Blimey.
So it's a good one. It's it's all about success and failure, and how the secret of eternal happiness is within. And if we only understood that, then everyone would be in a better place. So it kind of speaks to the child in all of us.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a stomper.
Great, well, I enjoy it. Thank you very much. That was wonderfully put, and I'm looking forward to the track enormously, although I know what it is, so again, I've broken the illusion. And good luck with the walk, and we'll speak to you after the first, 800 miles?
Yeah, only 200 to go.
Best of luck, Dave.
Cheers.
Speak to you soon. The Stones' response to the success of disco music from 1978, that's Miss You, and the album Some Girls. It's worth digging out. It's a good album if you've not heard it. Okay, so Steve Merchant here, The Steve Show. It is 20 to 5 on a lazy Sunday afternoon, and we've been enjoying the music choices of my guests here, Dan and Harry. They are nobodies, I mean that in the best possible sense. They are just average Joes who have come in with music, and that's very much what this show's about. It's about us just being music fans, not music experts, and we encourage you, the listener, to get involved in future weeks. Don't start emailing and texting right now. We have not got the time or energy to look at those texts. So we have your final choices, gentlemen. Daniel, you are to kickstart us.
Yeah, I'm going to kickstart you. My third and final choice, and lest we forget, this is the decider, so
yes.
it needs to be good.
Thank you for cranking up the tension, because I was not in any way interested, so I'm glad that you reminded me.
Looking a bit laid back there, and I thought we need to ratchet it up a bit, and I think I've got a winner. Boca 45 is the artist. The song is That's All. It's a cover version of a Genesis classic from 1983, so I think you'll be enjoying that. I know you're a big fan of Genesis.
This sounds very wayward, but it's interesting. You've really you're putting all your eggs in this basket.
I think you'll be enjoying it. It's a very groovy, slightly lo-fi version of it, but maybe the music should speak for itself.
That's all. Boca 45. That's Daniel's last choice in this clash of the mates who've brought in some music. We need a punchy name for this, guys. We've really got to think of something. And what can you tell me about Boca 45, Dan?
Well, I should declare an interest, because I do know the guy behind Boca 45, who's called Scott Hendy. But this is from an album that was released in the latter part of last year, Vertigo Sounds. And there's a bit of a rawness there. I think you'll agree with that, but I like that. I think it gives it a bit of an edge, and it's a great little album with lots of grooves, a slightly 60s pop mentality on some of the other tracks, and highly recommended from Dan.
Is that representative of the album?
It's representative of the sound, but it's the only cover version on it, so perhaps it stands out slightly for that reason. But the guy doing the vocals is a guy called Stepchild. That's not Scott on vocals, he produces the music. And I would say, yeah, if you like that, then you'll probably like the album. And if you hate it, well, don't bother.
Did you get a backhander for plugging this track? Because that contravenes every BBC bone in my body.
I've got nothing. All I want from this is the point that will give me victory, utter victory over Harry. That's the only that's the only thing I'm after.
Enough. Harry, what are your thoughts on Boca 45?
Well, there's a lot of stake here now, obviously, Steve. I've got two main concerns. One, it's a cover. Did I detect the stench of irony? Don't like ironic
I'm not a fan of irony generally in music.
And my second, more overriding concern is Because that's a cover of Genesis stroke Phil Collins, is Collins going to get paid because we just played that? He doesn't need any more money.
That's a good point.
You know, why are we doing it?
Moreover, we've already played a cover version in this, in our notorious Mr. Cover
But you've only just made that rule up. I wasn't informed about this.
Well, I know, but you know, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I think Harry would have to really go out of his way to be berserk.
I hate this.
to
I hate
fail on this
everything that's
particular
happening
challenge.
now.
Harry, introduce us to your track.
Yeah, I'm going to play Holding Back the Year by Lou Barlow. It's not a cover of a Simply Red song with an S missing. Lou Barlow, ex-Sebado frontman, he's back playing with Dinosaur Jr. now. Like you were saying earlier about singer-songwriters, there's a lot of good ones about. He's an excellent one, and this is a great track.
Barlow, Holding Back the Year on Six Music, the Steve Show. And that's the final choice from good friend Harry. Dan, what did you make of that track?
Well, it was very nice. It was perfectly pleasant. But let me say this to you, Steve. A vote for Harry at this stage of the competition is a vote for beige. It's a vote for sensible shoes. A vote for a car in a car park at an out-of-town shopping mall. Going round with the kids, you know. That's all I'm saying.
Whereas a vote for you is what?
I haven't thought that far ahead, actually, to be honest, no. I've only thought about slagging off someone, not about bigging myself up, I'm afraid, so that's as far as I've got.
Don't make that mistake in the future. Harry, this is what I feel like. I feel like a beautiful woman who
you
have...
like one.
Thank you. You've asked out on a date. Firstly, you took me to a raucous indie club. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It wasn't my cup of tea. Next, you took me to a fey, jingly-jangly wine bar. I didn't particularly enjoy that. Oh, hang on a minute, he's pulled something out the bag. What's this? 2 tickets for singer-songwriter Lou Barlow. I've listened to him there on the stage, strumming away, lovelorn, melancholy, just him and a guitar, his beautiful voice. And I think I've looked across the room, I've seen your eyes, Harry. The music's filtered into my ears. Although I've fallen in love with him, you're the only one I can have that particular night.
You're sensing a depth in me that's just not there.
Exactly. Well, you have won me over with that track. I thought it was great. I've been a fan of Lou Barlow, and so therefore, consequently, I have to give you the point. You are the victor. Let's have a Steve Wright style
Thank
round
you
of
very
applause.
much. Cheers.
That's great news. Now listen, you too can be a winner at home with what can only be described as a fiendishly difficult pop music trivia question. Now what is happening here is that there's a pub quiz that I sometimes go to. It's a music quiz. It's hosted by a guy called Richard. Lovely guy. Very, very tricky though. Dan, you'll agree. Harry, you'll agree. You've been along. It's tough. It's very tough. You really need to know your onions. So this is a tricky question, and, okay, you might think to yourself, I've heard lots of tricky questions. This is very tricky. And because I am worried that you, the Six Music listener, cannot be trusted, that you're going to rush off to the internet and immediately try and figure out the answer, I'm going to have to set a time limit. So whilst we'll set the question, we'll play a track, and you have to text in the answer before the end of that track. Otherwise, it rolls over to next week. 64046 is the number. Write that down. Get a pen. Quick. Hurry. Get a pen now, maybe it's by the lavatory. maybe you left it by the phone. Quick, you got it? Great. 64046. Let's play the question.
Hi, it's Richard here with another fiendishly difficult music question. What is the only Beatles song to have the songwriting credits Lennon, McCartney, Starkey, Harrison? What is the only Beatles song to have the songwriting credits Lennon, McCartney, Starkey, Harrison?
Text us if you know it, 64046. In the meantime, Nick Cave. A lot of people still do not take to Nick Cave. They think he's gloomy, they think he's goth. Listen to this. This is one of his greatest love songs, Love Letter. From the album No More Shall We Part, that's the magnificent Nick Cave and the song Love Letter. If you've not been a Nick Cave fan before, if you've just assumed that he was loud guitars and gothy haircuts, then how wrong you were. More fool you. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people out there who've embarrassed themselves. That was, it turned out, a fiendishly difficult music question. A lot of people saying flying for the answer. We've had Jim in Belfast, Andrew in London, James in Norwich, all saying flying. Rob in Blackpool. Oh, dearie me, Rob. Please do not be texting in any more radio stations because... Dearie me, Yellow Submarine. Oh, go back to bed, mate. We've had a couple of right answers, but I'm still a little anxious. Did they look on the internet? It's difficult to say. They came in much later, about halfway through that song. But we'll let Richard give us the answer.
The question was, what is the only Beatles song to have the songwriting credits Lennon, McCartney, Starkey, Harrison? And the answer to that is a very short song on Let It Be called Dig It. And if anyone said flying on the Magical Mystery Tour, it wasn't Starkey, that was credited to Star.
Oh, dearie me, you poor fools. Oh, they've embarrassed themselves, haven't they? If you want to go along to Richard's music quiz, by the way, Monday evenings at Three Kings in Clerkenwell, it's worth going along, but you really need to know your onions. And I'd say the sort of guy who should be popping down, flying over from Dundee, is Graham Duff. He's only gone and done it. Well done, Duffy.
Well done, Duff.
That's good work. And is there a prize, or do you think the fact of knowing that is prize enough? Maybe we should try and seek out the biggest Six music nerd. Maybe that's the way we use these to identify who the biggest muso is out there in Six Music Land. Okay, we've got a final tune. Coming up next, we've got Stuart McConey with the Freak Zone. I think we've enjoyed ourselves. Thank you to Dan, thank you to Harry. Final round of applause, Steve Wright style.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I'll leave you with the track by the Pogues. I'm a fairly recent convert to the Pogues, and if you don't believe that Shane MacGowan is one of the world's great romantic poets who just decided to live his life disguised as a homeless tramp, then listen to this beautiful song, A Rainy Night in Soho. See you next week.